Spirit, one God, Amen.
The gospel today talks about a very strange story. In order for us to understand what happened, I'm just going to step back, give you some background, and then we'll get deeper into today's talk. Basically what happened, Jesus fed the multitude, the very famous 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Afterwards, there were 3 groups of people: Jesus, disciples, multitude. Jesus went up on the mountain to pray. The disciples, they took a boat and crossed the Capernaum. Multitudes went back home to sleep. At night, as the disciples were sailing, it was very difficult for them to sail through the sea. So Jesus came in the middle of the night, he calmed the sea and crossed with them to Capernaum. In the morning, the multitude started looking for Jesus. The 2 logical places to find Jesus were they left him on the mountain, or did he take a boat and cross to meet his disciples? That's where the gospel today starts. So they went to the sea. There's only one boat that was missing, which is the one that the disciples took the night before, so they didn't know where Jesus went. It didn't occur to them that Jesus can simply just walk on the water and meet his disciples halfway. That's why the first thing they told Jesus when they saw him, "When did you get here? How did you get here?" Because they were not sure. The strange thing about the gospel today is the way that God treated the multitude. When God saw the multitude, he told them, "Look, you're not coming for me, you're coming because you ate." And someone can look at this and be like, "So what? What's the big deal? What's the big deal if they come to eat? They're going to come, enjoy some food, enjoy some company. Maybe God will give a sermon, maybe he will perform a sign. Good day, no problem." Today I want to talk about 3 main reasons why was Jesus a little bit aggressive on the people. Why was he tough on the people? If you look at the people that came to Jesus, they were the ones that were fed the night before, which means they at least have seen one miracle. At least have seen one miracle. They probably at least have heard one sermon. At least have heard one sermon. Jesus had many followers that wanted to make him a king, an earthly king. So most likely, some of those people were the followers of Jesus. So they saw miracles, they heard sermons, they followed Jesus. So it's fair to say that they have experience with God. It's fair to say that they have experience with God. And God is looking at them and telling them, "Come on, I want you to grow. After all this experience you have with me, you're still seeking what's for the beginners. The beginners will come maybe for food, will come for this, but you're still coming for these things?" In our lives, we all have experience with God. Maybe through a prayer, maybe through a situation, maybe through some other people. But sometimes we come to God for the wrong reasons. Sometimes we come to church for the wrong reasons. Sometimes people might come to church just because they feel guilty. Like they are so used to come to church, and if they wake up Sunday and they don't come to church on Sunday, they feel guilty. And they don't like that guilt feel. So they like to come to church. Some people might like to come to church for the social component. They come, there's a lot of people to hang out with, there's a lot of social component into it, especially when there's also a culture component into the social component. Some people might come to church because they feel their self-worth. You come, you start serving, or you become a deacon, so you grow as a servant, you grow as a deacon, you become important, people think you're important, you think you're important, so you like coming to church because of your self-worth. But God tells you, "No, I want you to grow. I want you to grow. Why are you seeking what's for the beginners?" One of my favorite sayings of Isaac Newton said, he said, "Look, if I have seen further, it's because I'm standing on the shoulder of a giant. If I have seen further, it's because I'm standing on the shoulder of a giant." Basically what he's saying, look, if I was able to come up with all these Newton laws of gravity and Newton laws of motion, it's because of all the work that was done before me. All that work that was done before me inspired my work, helped me to see more, helped me to discover more. The same thing in our spiritual life. God is telling us, in order for you to see further, you have to stand on the shoulder of a giant. And that giant is experience. You got to build up some more experience until you have that giant. If you want to see all of Chicago, you're going to have to go to the highest point in Chicago. You're going to have to go to Sears Tower to be able to see all Chicago. If you go outside the church, you're not going to see anything. And that's kind of what God's telling them. Yes, you had a couple of experiences, but build some more experiences. I want you to grow. I don't want you to come just for the food. Sometimes what happens is people reach a moral standard that they are comfortable with. And someone be like, look, I come to church on Sunday, sometimes I serve, I have family, I have people during the week. What else do you want from me? Everything is good. And God tells you, no, I want you to grow. Why are we stopping here? Even in a physical sense, no one kind of be like, you can't be like, look, I'm going to be 25, I'm not going to grow more than 25, that's it. Physically, we all have to grow. So the first thing that God was telling the people, I want you to grow. I don't want you to stop here. The second thing that God's telling the people, I want you to seek me for heavenly things, not for earthly things. I want you to seek me for heavenly things, not for earthly things. If you look in the Bible today, the exact verse, God's telling them, look, you're not coming because you saw the signs. You are coming because you ate. It's a very strange verse. Why is he telling them you're not coming because you saw the signs? Signs? What's the big deal about the signs? There's a big difference when they come to God for food, when they come to God for signs. When they come to God because they are hungry, they go physically hungry, they leave physically full. So it's a physical change. When they go to God because of miracles, that miracles strengthen their faith. So if I see God, for example, healing someone in front of my own eyes right now, that doesn't change me physically. I am as hungry, as thirsty, as tired as I am. It's not going to change anything. But the one thing that will change is my faith. Even in the gospel, you'll see, for example, Jesus performs a miracle. And then the verse right after, and the disciples believed in him. And Jesus will say something. And then the disciples believed in him. And Jesus will do something else. And then the disciples believed in him. So how many times they believed in him? No, they keep seeking God for heavenly things. They keep seeking him for heavenly things, and they keep growing in heavenly things. A lot of times, we seek God when we are facing earthly problems. Like when you have issues with your health, when you have issues with relationships, when you have issues with your career, we go run to God. And nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But how many times do we run to God for heavenly things? How many times do I go and run to God and look, God, look, my prayers are weak, and I want you to help me out. My Bible reading are weak, and I want you to help me out. There's one person who's far away from you, and I want you to help me to bring him closer to you. And I pray the fervent prayer that I would pray for myself if I was facing a problem. A few years ago, I used to serve in St. Mary, East Brunswick, New Jersey. And St. Mary, East Brunswick, New Jersey was established by Mina Demitry. Mina Demitry passed away a few years ago. And Mina Demitry was known for his sense of humor. He likes to joke around, and he always has a smile on his face, and people loved him for that. The last few years of his life, he was extremely sick to the point whenever, once a week when he comes to church, people have to hold his hands as he walking into the church. So after he passed away, we were sitting with the Sonia and we asked her, have you ever seen Abuna upset? We have never seen him upset. No matter what happens, he's always happy. She said the one time I saw him upset, that he was serving an elderly man. And Abuna heard from the physicians that this elderly man has few days in his life and then he's going to die. The problem is that elderly man lost faith. He didn't believe in God anymore. So Abuna would go every single day to try to convince him about God. The one day that Abuna was so sad and so frustrated is the day when Abuna went to the hospital and this man passed away. It didn't bother Abuna when he was sick. It didn't bother him that he was not able to walk. It didn't bother him that he was not able to serve in the same capacity as he used to be. But what bothered him is he lost a soul to the kingdom of heaven. And that's what God's telling us today. Seek me for heavenly things, not for earthly things. Earthly things, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So the first thing is God's telling the people, I want you to grow. The second thing is God telling the people, I want you to seek me for heavenly things. The third point is God is telling them, I want you to have a good culture, a good fellowship. Think about it this way. The night before, God fed 5,000 people, 5,000 men. With the women and children, you're talking about 20,000 people. 20,000 people, and not a single soul thought of going to Jesus and telling him, thank you, Jesus, for feeding us. Not a single person said, look, Jesus fed us yesterday, we will feed him today. How about we have gathered some people and invite Jesus over? That's kind of even the norm. When someone invites you over their house, you invite them over your house. That's the norm. None of them thought of inviting Jesus over. It makes me wonder, like after Jesus fed the multitude, what were they telling each other as they were going home? They were just talking about how good the fish was, how good the bread was. In the morning, as they were knocking on each other's doors and trying to get each other to meet Jesus, what were they talking about? They kept looking, searching in the mountain. Jesus crossed, so they were working hard just for the food. Maybe Jesus saw within those 20,000 people, there are 20 people that have good conscience. And under different circumstances, they would behave differently. And Jesus wanted to be a little bit aggressive on the people, just for those 20 people. Telling them, look, I want you to be leaders. I don't want you to be followers. I know under circumstances you would have been different, but I want you to be leaders. That fellowship, that community makes the biggest difference. There's one story I've heard, and I'm not sure if it's real or not real, but it drives the point home. Basically, there was a church that is just starting, and this church had few people in it. But one day they decided to invite a very famous speaker. So imagine God repose his soul if we decide to invite His Holiness Pope Shenouda. Good speaker, everyone will come, of course, to hear him. So they invited a good speaker, and only 5 people showed up. So the speaker's sitting, and I'm so used to seeing thousands, there's only 5 people, that's not a good deal. So he decided to wait some more, no one came. So he went to the altar and he started praying and told God, look, I am kind of discouraged that there is only 5 people here. I'm so used to serving a lot of people. So Jesus told him, God came and told him, look, go outside and give the sermon, because I am one of the 5 people who are sitting in the audience waiting to hear your sermon. Of course, he got so excited. Jesus in the audience himself, he want to hear my sermon. He comes outside, he gives the talk. And after he finishes his talk, he tells them, look, I came and I thought that I was very discouraged and I was not happy with the number I've seen. So I went and I prayed, and God told me that He's one of you 5. One of you 5 is Jesus. I don't know who He is, but one of you is Jesus. So the 5, everyone looks at himself, who's Jesus? I don't know who's Jesus. So they started treating each other so nicely, because you don't want to mess with Jesus. You don't want to treat Jesus bad. So they tried to be nice to each other. And as more people start coming to church, and they see that core group treating each other very nice and very gentle and very sweet to each other, they started being very nice and very gentle and sweet to each other. And more and more people come, okay? That more and more the culture starts transferring over to more and more people. And that's what Jesus is trying to tell those people. By the way, I don't know if this is a real story. So I don't know if Jesus was really one of the people, or what was the theme behind the story. But the point is that when you build a strong culture, a strong community, that makes all the big difference. So Jesus is looking for those 20 people with good conscience and telling them today, look, I want you to be a leaders, not a followers. So the 3 points we talked about today to answer that question, why was Jesus aggressive or tough on the people? Number 1 is Jesus telling them, I want you to grow. I don't want you to be comfortable with that moral standard that you're standing at. Number 2 is God telling them, I want you to seek me for heavenly things, not earthly things. And number 3, God is telling them, I want you to have a good community and good fellowship, and glory be to God forever.